Okay, so thanks for the opportunity of sending all the questions in. It's been a great chance to answer a number of them. Sorry we haven't had time to answer all of the questions put on Twitter and Facebook, but we've selected a couple that we're going to go through now and just see each other's opinion on these. So Greg, Steve Watson on Facebook asks, what exactly is the role of the assistant referee? So often they seem to ignore what is going on in front of them.
Well, the assistant referees are there to help us referee the game. They're allowed to come in at any phase of play during the game to assist us in getting the right decisions. So whether that's the scrum, the line out, offsides, knock-ons, forward passes, things around the breakdown that we miss, and they can come in to make sure that we get the right decisions. I think
it's important as well for supporters to know that the ARs have a protocol that we stick to in the Premiership, and that we're not asking for everything, and there are certain things that the ARs are looking for. So sometimes, if a not straight throw-in is deemed straight by the referee, then they may not put it in. So it's not always to blame the AR, and they are often looking at what's going on in front of them, even though it may seem that they're not.
Yeah, the classic one where they could come in is at scrums, where the referee is standing on one side of the scrum, the assistant referee's on the touchline on the other side of the scrum, and it just gives us two sets of eyes to look at it, so we can really try and get the decision right, because we don't want lots of reset scrums and we want to be accurate. So Tony Hoggerty, talking about scrums, has come in. So Tony Hoggerty on Facebook was asked, scrums better now or before? I'm guessing he's saying before the crouch, bind, set protocols come in the last 12 months.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Some stats say that there are less resets. Some stats say that at the moment there are more. But I think in general, as a referee, they're becoming easier to referee because the whole process is slower. When we're asking players to bind, we can clearly see when we call set if a player isn't binding and if someone's doing something illegal, because the impact is taken out. Obviously that means a better outcome for player welfare. But I do think it is better now, and personally speaking, I prefer the scrum process as it is now. It makes it simpler for someone who's never played in the forwards in the front row. So yeah, I do think it's getting better.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think better now before. I think it's better for the game. Easier to understand, like you said. It's a much cleaner process. Whether we're getting the decisions right or not is still up for debate, and it's definitely safer on players. I think there's been a lot of studies that said the impacts on players and the welfare of players, which is really important in the game.
Gail Gallagher from Facebook asks us, have you ever played in the pack? I'll let Greg lead away on this one.
Despite my physique, I've played in every position in the pack. I started off at hooker when I was 10. I've also played tight head prop, played second row, and I've played all the positions of the back row. I ended up finishing my career playing as a number 7 a few years ago. And what about you, Luke? Did you ever play in the pack?
Surprisingly not. No, I did play at 9 and 10 and occasionally fullback in my early days, but no, I've never had the joy to experience front row, which means I'm taking the long way around in learning exactly what's going on in the front rows.
Doesn't surprise me with those boyish good looks either, Luke. Okay, so just going to answer a few questions on Twitter. The official MJH here has asked us, what are our favourite cheeses? Luke?
Interesting. Yeah, cheeses. I'm a fan of a cheddar. A cheddar with a few biscuits and a few crackers on a Saturday night after a game is a favourite of mine. Not as much as Wayne Barnes likes a good cheese, but I do enjoy a bit of cheddar. You, Greg?
Brie for me, or a good strong French cheese.
We move on to our last question. Apologies if I get the names pronounced wrong. Cheryl Pipers off Twitter asks us, what's the toughest match that we've refereed and why?
Toughest match, it's quite a difficult one because they are all tough in their own way. Some of the biggest games that I've had the pleasure to referee was the Harlequin Saracens game at Wembley a couple of years ago with the world record crowd. That was a fantastic experience. Having busted, do the half-time show and the warm-up and sharing a dressing room next to them was really good. And Wembley is one of the best. It's probably the best stadium I've ever been in the world. There's also some really good Heineken Cup games down in Claremont, Toulon, and I was lucky enough to referee the Junior World Cup final 2 years ago in Cape Town between New Zealand and South Africa, which is something I'll never forget. Luke, I know you're still starting on your career and you'll have lots of big games ahead, but what would you say is the toughest?
I think last season I experienced a couple of tough games, or people may say more than a couple of tough games, but my toughest to memory was probably the Ulster-Leinster game in May this year. where we had the new opening of the new Ulster Stadium on a Friday night, the last but one game in the Rabo, as it was then. And it was just difficult, full house. We had a red card within the first quarter. We had a yellow card 2 minutes after that, and another yellow card and a try just after that. So it was a very tough environment, but one that obviously we strive to do the tough matches. We strive to do the best matches, and for me that will always stick in memory. And then to finish the season on the championship final, the second leg, where London Welsh beat Bristol at the last game at the Memorial Ground. I think that's a special memory for me, being a Southwest guy myself. To do the last game at the Memorial Stadium, packed house on a Wednesday night was a fantastic experience. So I'd have to say those two.